Do you have hardened leftover clays that you can't find any use for? Well, gather them up because we'll be softening them again so you can use it to make new sculptures. Hey my sparks, Zane here, and before we proceed, please take note that this method may or may not work in certain types of air dry clay. This may also not work in certain overcooked clay cases or issues. What I can assure you though is that this works for the DIY clay that I use. DIY clay tutorial is linked in the description. Softening hardened or cured clays. If your clay is hard and already cured, or maybe it's still quite flexible but really tough to tear, you can follow this method. The process is basically the same from what we did in the previous softening clay video, but with a few minor changes. Since the clay is hard, it will be difficult for the water to soak properly on it by simply poking holes like before. So what we need to do is to cut it into pieces. If you can cut them as small as possible, that will be much better. If the clay is too tough to cut with scissors, use a cutter instead. Please be careful not to cut yourself. Again, depending on the amount of clay, let's add enough water. But how much is enough water this time? Since these are cured clays, they're pretty dried up, which means they need more water. So instead of 10%, you can start off with at least 20% water. Then, let that soak overnight. I'm using a spray bottle to add the water to have better control on the amount, especially for smaller batches. Make sure everything is covered with water. Heyo! Did you know you can join the Sparks membership over on Ko-fi to get access to exclusive updates and content while also supporting this channel? You can learn additional tips about sculpting and be one of the first ones to see all the projects I'm working on. Huge thanks to Ko-fi and Lizzie for the support. It really means a lot. Let's check it after 6 hours. It seems the water I've added is not enough. Getting the right amount is very tricky for cured clay, so don't worry if this happens. Let's add some water again and let it soak overnight. This is soft enough now, so we can mix and knead it. After mixing it a bit more, it turned out that the second time I added water, it's quite more than what it needed. This is way too damp. This is still pretty sticky, but I'll knead it with my hands anyway since that will hasten the drying process to get it to the right consistency. This process of kneading may be quite tedious, so if you don't want that and you have time to spare, you can just air it out for a few hours. Just air it out enough so you could knead it properly. Don't let it dry too much or you'll be back to square one. After about 4 minutes, the clay is quite alright now. Simply tap the clay on your fingers to get them off. I'll be doing this process until all the clay is at the right consistency. After more than 20 minutes, here it is. I recommend mixing a bit of glue to this. It's a dried clay which we just added water to, so it most definitely lost some tackiness. If you feel some small chunks of clay at this stage, you may simply get rid of those by picking them out so you'll have a smoother clay. Let's do a quick consistency check here. Here's a pretty smooth ball. And here's a teardrop shape. It's not super smooth, but that's fine. Some observation after softening the clay. Just like last time, this also seems to dry quicker than before. Generally, I find it better to mix this with a fresh clay. There's also no limit to this process. You can soften cured clays as many times as you want. Doing this process again and again to the same set of clays will, however, increase chances of the clay absorbing dust, dirt, or whatever. So just make sure that everything you use in doing this process is totally clean. I think that's all. If I missed anything, or if you have any questions, or if there's a method you know that works better and probably less tedious, feel free to drop it in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, stay safe, and stay crafty. Bye!